Party from the beginning when one of our town council members was one of the people who spoke on the day that it opened and so forth. My understanding of the Occupy movement is that in order to be, we are the 99%, that party affiliation was specifically being downplayed, because if you play up party affiliation, then it divides the people on exactly those issues on which there's widespread agreement across parties. And I think that's why when I've spoken at the GA and so forth, I've never identified myself as a Green Party member, and I don't even know if Greg did on that first day that we opened. But we've certainly participated at many, members of the Green Party participated at many rallies, but I wonder if you could speak to the question of party affiliation and whether it's positive or not to utilize that when you get up to speak, because it seemed like that's the movement wanted that not.
If you're mentioning your party affiliation as part of just who you are, that's not a problem. It would be a problem. My understanding of all of the occupations is there are people with all different political belief systems as part of it.
Right.
And that's the beauty of it. That's the 99%. So to identify yourself as a Green Party person in and of itself is not an issue. So if you're doing a Green Party action and you want to say it's inspired by or in league with or in support of Occupy Oakland, go for it. Go for it. You can't, but that the energy is more about the Occupy movement not being co-opted by any one particular party. That's more the energy and more the concern than what we all individually believe as far as politics and religion. And even especially within Occupy Oakland, there's vastly different beliefs and everything, and how to tactics and maneuvers and everything else. Yes.
I just wanted to speak to that. Early on, you brought to the attention of the Oakland Greens before the first raid. Samsarah came to the Oakland Greens and she was very upset about, obviously, for well-founded reasons. She was upset about some of the violent dynamics that were developing down there, some of the aggressive behavior and stuff like that, some of the attitude towards women, some of the stuff that kind of was spiraling out of control. And several of us came down to intervene and speak on it, and we were open about who we were, how we knew what was going on, why we were speaking up, and that was never a problem. The fact that we were Green Party people coming forward and speaking up was never an issue. But of course, we never claimed that Occupy supports us. It was more the other way around. We support it.
There are a number of things about, I'm a great supporter of Occupy, and I've participated in the major actions at this point. I've attended a number of DAs and so forth. I'm not a member of any committee, and I'm not attended. But I'm concerned about a number of things right now with regard to Open Occupy. And I kind of fear that Open Occupy is sort of losing focus. And basically, it has to do with the fact that Open Occupy has not been able to take a position against violence and confrontational tactics and that kind of thing. And I think that the way we're losing focus and beginning to lose the way is that, to me, one of the major objectives of Occupy right now would be to identify as much as possible with every member of the 99%, to bring them into the movement and so forth. I think that the fact that Oakland has not been able to differentiate itself from this confrontational style, or whatever that continues. 2 nights ago, what happened, I don't know if that was an Occupy action. It was identified as an Occupy action.
What happened 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
Which action we speak of?
That was where I guess it was something like 50 to 90 members paraded down Broadway, went down to the police department.
Yesterday?
Day before yesterday, I think it was, 2 days ago. And yeah, there was some, and I think about 15 or so people were arrested. But I don't know whether that was an Occupy action. I hadn't heard of it before, but they were identified as being occupied. And that's, what is Occupy planning to do about this?
Let me address that. First of all, I need to say, and I should have said from the beginning, that anything that I say, I'm giving my perception. I don't speak for Occupy Oakland, although I love Occupy Oakland, and I'm a family member to the 1000th degree. The decision was made by Occupy Oakland to honor a diversity of tactics, meaning that there are people who feel that they need to be maybe more aggressive, and there are people who feel that they want to practice nonviolence, the traditional Martin Luther King or Gandhian nonviolence.
Was that a formal action?
It was a decision not to make it.
It was a decision to honor diversity of tactics. So, meaning that people have free agency, and no one group gets to speak or tell another group what they want to do. Anyone, this room can just decide you're Occupy Green Party and do all kinds of things, and they can't tell you not to. Right? So that being said, I mean, I have my own individual personal feelings about that, and there are, at least off the top of my head, 5 nonviolent committees and caucuses also planning actions and doing things. Now, of course, when the nonviolent groups do stuff, there's no press and no one's getting arrested, and so you don't hear about them. But they're there and they're very strong, you know? And then, of course, if somebody else has another idea or is more aggressive or uses profanity, the press is all over them, cops are arresting them, and then that gets to be the reflection of Occupy Oakland. So I personally feel it's about, I personally have my own belief and desire for a Gandhian or King-style nonviolence, and those are the committees and caucuses that I'm part of, and anything that's done under my auspices, that's what I do. And then there is respect for diversity of tactics. And Craig.
Yeah, I just went back from the Occupy Oakland General Assembly just before this meeting, and there were several things that happened there that address what we're talking about. One is, many people may know that last night there was a march of about 250 people from Oscar Grant Plaza to the police station around 8 o'clock last night or so, or later. And towards the back of the crowd, some people threw rocks at some police cars and broke some windows. And they were called out on that today at the General Assembly, because they said, look, you know, if you're going to do that, don't endanger the people up front by hiding in the back and throwing that. And people were specific about, yeah, we have diversity of tactics. Everybody's an individual. We're not going to, you know, tell you what you can or can't do, but take responsibility for what you're going to do. So the General Assembly is addressing these things. It's very difficult, of course, because it's a very fluid group, and you know, not everybody is always there at the same time, but people are trying to address these things. And then in the General Assembly itself, there were a number of actions that were taken that have nothing to do with any violence. In fact, a lot of labor support actions. Some people may know that previously it was voted to support the Longview workers up there. There's going to be busloads of people that Occupy Oakland and other groups are going to be sending up there. And then today at the GA, they endorsed 2 strike actions, one for the American licorice workers in Union City. That's tomorrow, all day tomorrow, if you can get there sometime tomorrow. And then also in February for the Castlewood Country Club workers in Pleasanton. And then something else is on February 20th. They're doing Occupy the Courts, having to do with corporate personhood and going to the court systems. So there's a lot of things that Occupy Oakland is doing that have nothing to do with, you know, just, what is it called, fuck the police last night and throwing rocks. Unfortunately, the media is, you know, covering that stuff, and that's one problem that Occupy Oakland needs to work on, is to get the media out about what they're doing, and even when they're protesting the police, people talked about needing to do more to explain to people why they're protesting the police. So that was dealt with. And finally, Samsarah mentioned that a number of Occupy Oakland people have been arrested lately, and they do need support to show up for the arraignments. As she said, a lot of this is just totally unjustified, that the police are just arresting people on totally trumped up charges. So tomorrow and Tuesday at 9 a.m. and at 2 p.m. at the 7th and Washington Courthouse, if you can be there for the arraignments, show your support. And then also tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at the Pleasanton Courthouse, there's one person who was originally asked to show his ID. This was back in December, and he didn't have an ID, and so they said, well, all right, let's just, check your status. And unfortunately, he was on probation, and so they made some excuse and arrested him. And while they were figuring out what kind of charges to put him with, they held him for 4 days. They wouldn't allow him to have his medication, so he got in a fight with the guard, and so now he's being held on felony assault charges against the guard. It turns out that that's his third strike, and if he's convicted, he'll be in the rest of his life in prison for not having an ID initially. And he's being held in Pleasanton for $600,000 bail. The arraignment is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. if you can make it.
Yes, I respect that you said that you don't speak for the entire Occupy Oakland movement, and of course, neither do I. But I want to say, while you may sometimes have a different choice of words, that I sort of disagree with your usage of the word honoring diversity of tactics. When diversity of tactics, we all know, is code word for those people who want to commit violence. Those people who want to commit violence, as you might agree with me, are a small group of people within the entire Occupy Oakland movement. And the reason that I would politely and respectfully take exception to your use of the word honoring is because those people, by what they want to do, are making decisions and exposing the entire movement to what they want to do without it being brought up for a vote, without other people having any say in what they're doing, without other people even knowing what they're doing, and exposing minorities and other politically vulnerable people to police backlash that can end up in a situation just like this. And we know that probably all of those people who advocate violence are young, white, privileged, will have someone to come bail them out of jail, and will get lighter sentences. So I just wanted to very politely, and with all due respect to you, take exception to that use of the word honoring, because they are not honoring the rest of us that they are using as human shields. And I put forth, along with a few other people, as you might know if you were there that night, put forth a formal resolution before the GA for, we didn't even use the word violence, we said resolution against assaults against others, which is not really a problem, but just to be inclusive, and property destruction. And we told these, what I will say, little white wannabe revolutionaries, that we're not telling them they can't do that. We're telling them they can't do it on our time. So if they want to be brave little white wannabe revolutionaries, go do it on their time and stop using the rest of us as human shields who have no say-so. So they want us to respect their so-called right to commit property destruction, but they don't want to respect our right that we didn't have any say in it, and we, especially as people of color and other legally vulnerable people, are going to be the most at jeopardy.
I really very much appreciate everything that you just said. And I even agree tremendously with everything that you just said. And I also think that that issue is one of those issues that we could be fighting forever and not make any movement. The other committees and caucuses that are nonviolent and that have other ways of expressing themselves are doing important work, and we have to move forward. So proposals can be brought to the table. You know, there's been major energetic and other things that have kept certain proposals from coming to the table, and I'm not willing to have a big discussion about that while I have cameras on me. But
Actually, we don't have to be
I'm more
fighting.
than willing to have conversations about that, and I'm more than willing to keep working on that. But in the meantime, there's really important work that we need to
Just
do.
very briefly, we don't have to be fighting forever because there has been some discussion about forming another group called Liberate Oakland, in which, since it would be founded, as I understand, all the other occupies in the United States, as my understanding, especially Occupy Wall Street, were founded and established on nonviolence. A nonviolent statement would prevent the police, the mayor, conservative city politicians from blaming every act of violence that ever went on or goes on in Oakland before, during, after, having nothing to do with Occupy Oakland, from blaming it on Occupy Oakland and scaring away the broad movement we want to attract.
Again, I agree with you, and we're at a point now where the police don't need an excuse to do what they're doing. There was a nonviolent action last week, and people were abused during that as well. So again, it's part of a greater conversation. We need to have it, and it was going on this evening per Greg's report of what was being discussed at the GA. It's not over.
Yeah, the news that I watched this morning emphasized that a policeman found a stick of dynamite during last night's action. That was one of the main things they focused on. They had
Found it after he dropped it. Exactly.
anyway,
In his pocket.
yeah, I was a part of a group, and Joan and others were a part of a group called Earth First, which many of you know. And in the late '80s, a few of the Earth Firsters decided to spike trees, and one of the what?
And we've heard about it ever since.
Yeah, right.
Every time
But
they want to denounce environmentalists.
yeah. So what happened was a lumber mill worker got hurt when the saw broke and hit one of the spikes, and almost all the Earth Firsters renounced that action and had a policy of nonviolence. But there were a few that broke it, and that's all. Because of that, they called us eco-terrorists right up to the present, for the last 25 years. So I know I went to a meeting with the Black Bloc. There were right after the first big Oakland Port of Oakland march, and where they broke windows and stuff, and that was all over the news. And they had a meeting 2 days afterwards. There was 200 of the Black Bloc people there, and they talked over their strategy, and most of them admitted they made a mistake. And it hurt our movement. But and the other thing is, about a week ago, Starhawk and about 8 other young people were on a panel discussion with 300 or 400 people in the audience about nonviolence versus violence. And Starhawk said, well, who's got all the weapons? In other words, what are we going to do against these people? In other words, it was an article just a week ago I cut out, actually, that the Bay Area Police just bought 7,500 automatic weapons to deal with all these problems. 7,500 weapons. Okay, we are totally outgunned, and so that nonviolence is the only way to grow, but a lot of people still don't get it.
Thank you, Samsarah. And 2 things. One is that, like personally, I spend a lot of time at my desk, on my laptop and the internet and stuff like that. And so I'm hoping to sort of switch my habits just based on what you're saying. I think the 3 things you're saying is what, like accompany, do workshops, like be there, or be on the phone and supporting them, in some way. And so just be there with my laptop and with my papers and, all that stuff, just sit on the steps and be there. So I'm going to try to change my ways a little bit, and I've been there, several times. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that the media is not going to stop lying. And the police are not gonna stop lying, no matter what anybody does. And so that if our goal is to make it so that the movement is perfect and the media won't have any possibility but to tell the truth, they're not gonna tell the truth. They're making stuff up right now. And so anything that and this is, we know this from the United States, we know this from Latin America. Huge changes happen and the media still lies. Here's the difference, and I think that our media strategy should be somehow let people know, whatever we can do to let people know the media lies. Oh, did you hear that on the news? You saw that on TV? You read that? The media lies. Oh, you didn't know that? I mean, I don't know how to do it, but somehow or other, that's got to be the strategy, that people know the media lies. They will not stop lying. They are the media, what is it? The military, industrial, prison, pharmaceutical, insurance, media, congressional complex.
Exactly right.
Exactly. I'm so, thank you for saying that. I really, I certainly have known that for forever. And, it was a really good example of that. Like after the first raid, I was very concerned. There were families who were camped out